How is the stock market structured? When should you buy or sell assets? And how much do you need to save each year to retire by a certain age? These are the kind of questions that come up most often when talking about money. But something important is often left out of the equation. This is the human factor, or the relationship between real people and their money. Socrates Inc. present The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lesson on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness, the summary, from the author Morgan Housel. Money is an essential part of our lives and is tied to many of our deepest values and beliefs. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explores the psychological factors that shape our financial decisions and behaviors. Through a series of engaging stories and insights, Housel delves into the hidden force that drives our attitudes towards money and offers practical advice for managing and improving our financial lives. Take a snack because we are going in depth into this book, and we will also cover stories from real life events so you can get more insight about it. Note number 1. Our relationship with money is shaped by our experience and emotion. Housel argues that our relationship with money is shaped by our personal experience and emotion. For example, if we grow up in a household where money is tight and parents are constantly worried about paying bills, we may develop a fear of financial insecurity that influences our spending and saving habits. On the other hand, if we come from a family with a strong financial foundation, we may be more confident and comfortable with money. Our experience and emotion also shape our values and goals, which can impact how we handle money. Do you remember when first COVID struck in? All the markets go down in a while, and some people were smart enough to invest and make a fortune out of it. Because of that, a lot of people start doing what we call fear of missing out or FOMO. Even though some of them only living from paycheck to paycheck with barely getting by, they sold all their assets and borrow money in hope to gain fortune like other influencers out there. Some of it may be lucky, but some of it gets stuck in the all-time high. The same as crypto when Bitcoin almost got to $70,000. This is the personal experience to us, and some people that losing money maybe don't want to invest in the future anymore. For those of you who may not familiar with that event, just think of crypto hype as lottery, where only some of them get to be the winner and no boasting about their life. Is this behavior logical? Mostly not. However, it is not unreasonable either. If you don't have enough money to buy things you need, let alone go on vacation, you are probably living paycheck to paycheck. It is a long shot to play the lottery, but it's better than not having any chance at all. More people make these kind of crazy calls than you might think. Housel argues that we are not always rational when it comes to money, and that our emotions often drive our financial decisions. For example, we may make impulsive purchases when we are feeling happy or depressed, or we may make a risky investment when we are feeling confident. This emotional reaction can lead to poor financial decisions, and it is important to be aware of them and try to make choices that are grounded in reason and long-term thinking. Note number 2. Most of the economic theories used today are still fairly new. Why can so many of us handle money well? One answer is that it's still pretty new in the big picture. The first currency was established in 600 before century, when King Alayat of Lydia minted his own coins in an Iron Age kingdom in modern-day Turkey, and that's not even hard compared to other economic ideas. Take retirement. Most Americans work until they died before the Second World War. Life expectancy was lower back then, but even so, half of all men over 65 were still working in the 1940s. That means that one of the most important economic ideas we use today is less than 200 years old. Other important ideas and habits are not that much older. Only in the last 25 years have hedge funds really taken off, and index funds are only 50 years old. Even consumer debts like mortgages, car loans, and credit cards, which is one of the main things that keeps the US economy growing, didn't become common until 1944, when the GI Bill made it easier for average Americans to borrow money. We are not crazy if we are not good at planning and making decisions about money. We are just newbie. So, don't put yourself hard on it. Note number 3. Luck has a bigger impact on how much money you make than you might think. A few years ago, the author asked Robert Shiller, an economist who won the Nobel Prize, what he would like to know most about investing that can be fully known. Shiller's answer was the exact role that luck plays in good outcomes. Luck is hard to talk about. Few investors or business owners would argue that it doesn't play a role in theory, but it's hard to say how much it makes one company do well and another fail. We also think it's rude to say that someone else's success was just about luck. So when it comes to making financial decisions, we often don't take luck into account. That is wrong. Most of the time, we either don't give luck enough credit or give it too much credit. If we do well, it's because we work hard. If we don't, it's because we were unlucky. But if other people fail, we are not nearly as kind. In those situations, failure isn't due to bad luck, but to the character flaws like being lazy or not being able to see the big picture. Since our culture is so focused on success, it doesn't help much here. That puts us in a tough spot. When it comes to money, we need to figure out not only what works and what doesn't, but also how to add randomness to our models. Note number 4. Jealousy can make you act rashly. Capitalism is good at two things: making people rich and making them want to be rich. Take a baseball player who is just starting out and makes $500,000 a year. He is rich by any reasonable measure. But if he plays on the same team as superstar like Mike Trout, who makes around $36 million a year, he might not be happy with what he makes. He wants to be like everyone else. On the other hand, people like Trout who make a lot of money compare themselves to those who make even more. So when is enough enough? Rajat Gupta was born in a slum in Kolkata, India, and worked his way up to become the CEO of the management consulting firm McKinsey. He was worth $100 million when he retired in 2007. He was free to do anything, but Gupta was jealous. He wanted to have more money. In 2008, Gupta, who was on the board of directors at Goldman Sachs, found out that Warren Buffett was going to put around $5 billion into the company to keep it going through the financial crisis. Gupta called a hedge funds manager 16 seconds after hearing this news on a conference call, long before it was made public. He bought 175 shares of Goldman Sachs. This was illegal trading on inside information. Gupta didn't care because he had just paid $1 million easily. By the time prosecutors caught up with him, he had made a series of bad deals that net him $17 million. He wasn't a billionaire because of it, but it was enough to get him a long time in prison. What does this story teach us? When you make bad decisions because of envy, the cost is much higher than the benefits. So, leaving opportunities on the table doesn't always mean you are missing out. Often, it's a sign that you know trying to take advantage of everything will make you regret it. Note number 5. It's easier to make a lot of money than to keep it. It turns out that sometimes it's a lot easier to get rich than to stay rich. People who are good at first tend to have trouble with the second. Here is an example of a story. In the early 20th century, Jesse Livermore was one of the best stock traders in the United States. He was born in 1877 and worked on Building Wall Street. He was worth $100 million in today's money by the time he was 30. Just before the crash of 1929, Livermore made the best decision of his career. He took a short position and bet that stock price would go down. The market did indeed lose a third of its value. While many investors lost their fortunes, Livermore went home to tell his family good news. He had just made about $3 billion in today's money. Happy ever after? Not quite. Don't forget what we said about how success is a bad teacher. Well, Livermore thought he couldn't lose after his big win in 1929. He bet more and more, and each time he lost big, he bet more. He did this over and over until all of his money was gone. In 1940, he killed himself in Manhattan Club because he was broke and owed a lot of money. Getting money is all about taking risks, being hopeful, and being brave. Keeping money is totally different mental game than making it. It's about being afraid of losing everything you have worked for. To stay rich, you also have to be humble. After 1929, Livermore started to think he was genius who could do no wrong. He would have done better to realize that luck had played a role and that he couldn't keep having the same success over and over. There are a lot of people like Livermore, but their stories usually are not as sad. About 40% of all companies that are on stock market lost all their values over time. And the 400 list of richest people in America changed by 20% every 10 years, not counting death and transfer within the same family. So how do you keep what you have? In a word, sticking with it. Michael Moritz, who has made a lot of money in venture capital, says that when you are afraid of losing, you look at the possible wins in a different way. Few gains are big enough to be worth putting everything you already have at risk for. When you look at things this way, you are much more likely to make better decisions. So you require balance and discipline. This means finding a balance between spending and saving and being disciplined in our financial habits. It also means being mindful of our values and goals and making sure our financial decisions align with them. Housel encourages readers to set clear financial goals and develop a plan for achieving them, and to be disciplined in sticking to that plan. Note number 6. Even if you are wrong half of the time, you can still make a lot of money. Heinz Berggren says that when he was young, he didn't show much promise. He didn't know what to do with his life, but he was forced to leave Nazi Germany in 1936. After going to University of California to study literature, he worked as a journalist and did art criticism on the side. In 1940s, he paid $100 bill for a small painting by an artist named Paul Klee. It was the start of lifelong interest in contemporary art. In the 1990s, Berg was one of the most successful art collectors who had ever lived. In the year 2000, he sold his collection for 100 million euros to the German government. It had a lot of Picasso, Cleese, Matisse, and Braque, so that wasn't even close to what it was really worth, which was estimated to be $1 billion. The collection was one of the most important in the world. Berg's portfolio was similar to an index fund in that his risks were spread out over a wide range of investment. He didn't just buy a piece he liked or admired. Instead, he bought everything he could and waited until a few winners stood out. This plan works for any investment, and that is to spread your money around. This idea is based on a lot of complicated math, but when you get down to the basic, it's easy to understand. When you do a few things well, you can get away with doing more things wrong. Failure is inevitable. What matters most is how well you do when you succeed. When you are sitting on a Picasso, you don't have to worry about the other 99 pieces in your collection that are not as good. Note number 7. Money can make people happy, but it is not the key to happiness. Housel says that money is not the key to happiness, even though it can bring happiness. In fact, research showed that after we reach a certain level of financial security, more money doesn't always make us happier. Happiness comes from things like having a meaningful relationship, growing as a person, and feeling like you have a purpose in life. Housel tells his readers to think about what gives them real joy and satisfaction and to make sure their money choice reflect those values. Final key summary. Making financial decisions in the real world is a lot messier than it is in economic books. Many decisions like buying lottery tickets when you are broke are not logical, but they make sense in their own way. The same is true for investment decisions, which are often based on what people learn about economy when they were young adults rather than on a cool assessment of how the market is doing now. Simply put, decisions about money are affected by things like how you feel. So, what is the best thing to do? Well, accept that luck plays in a part of success. Don't get too greedy, learn to be afraid of losing what you already have, and spread your bets and take opportunity. The Psychology of Money is a must read if you want to learn more about the psychological factors that drive financial behavior or just want to make a better financial decision. So, if you want to learn about Psychology of Money, make sure to pick up a copy of the book and start applying these ideas to your own financial life. I hope this video is helpful. Please subscribe to our channel so we can make more content like this. If you have any question or would like more information, I recommend checking out the book for a more in-depth exploration of the concept discussed. Thanks for watching Socraters.